I think in order to grow, learn, improve, we have to change our mind. The ability to change your mind is one that comes with maturity. I struggled with this for years. I would get entrenched in a belief that was usually based on something, whatever I learned, the information at that time, but I'd hold on to that belief no matter what was presented to me. As I got older, and all the time, I'm working at not being that person who's so stubborn that they can't see new information, because that's a huge way you learn and improve and grow. You have to be able to process new information and change your mind, pivot if something is different now because of what you've been just told or given or whatever. So what I learned is you guys dropped some great comments on the Headphone Quest video I made that, I read all of them. And what I basically, the way I left that video was that I got to make sure that my decision, which was at that time the LCDX by Audeze or Audeze, however you pronounce it, those were the ones, and they're very popular headphones. I thought I was going with those when I was comparing those to the Manny Marroquins, right? But after mixing several songs, I came up with a great test. It hit me while I was in the middle of a mix because I'm mixing still on my speakers in my room. I'm just trying to prepare to be able to mix in headphones only, like certain people can do, right? My goal is to be able to do that. So I get to a point where the song is nearly done being mixed. I like it, except there's a few moments where I realized I was like, okay, the guitar is too loud here. It's not much too loud, but it's too loud. And that's listening on my NS10s and checking on my barefoots, but really leaning on my NS10s because that's what I like to do. I like the way the NS10s sound with the subwoofer, with the room treatment, everything else. I like the way it sounds. So what do? I go, all right, perfect test. I plug in the Manny Marroquins, I put them on, and I hear exactly what I heard in the NS10s. The guitar's a little loud, and it's very clear in those headphones that that's the case. So the NS10s are speaking the same language as the Manny Marroquins. They're speaking the same language. Then I throw on the LCDXs to check those, and the guitar is not too loud. It's too low. When I'm listening on those, I say to myself, the guitar could come up. Not only could it come up, it could be a little brighter. And if I were to make that decision, like let's say I didn't have the reference point of the NS10s in front of me. I wasn't in my room, so I didn't hear that, but I'm just using the LCDXs. I would have made the guitar louder, and I would have made it brighter, and that's the last thing it needed. It just felt that it needed that because they're scooped. Like Django said. I mean, the dude commented, great comment. He's like, those are scooped, and because they're scooped, he would prefer the Manny Marroquins because he could hear what's going on in the mid-range better, and that's what he preferred. And at the time, all I was really thinking was, from what I had worked on to date, it was like, which was only when I bought these things, a couple songs, right, with both of them. All I was really focused on was that the listening experience was better on the LCDXs. And of course it is, because there's just more low end in there. It's more present. But the translation was the part of the video where I was like, I don't know what translates better yet. And what a perfect test to be able to figure it out. I was like, okay, if I have to make a bad mix decision because I'm wearing these headphones that make everything sound great because it's giving me more low end and it just makes everything feel better, nothing's sticking out too harsh, but that's like using a Snapchat filter. That's not what you look like. You look like what you look like. You don't look like the Snapchat filter. So what I'm basically saying is, why would you want to make a mix decision and a whole mix on something that's not going to sound that way on a ton of other systems, speakers, laptops, cell phones? It's going to not be scooped like that. So that scoop, in my opinion, for me, with my reference point being the NS10s, and that's the way I like things to sound, that's what I'm comfortable using when I'm mixing, I want my headphones to translate and speak the same language. That's why I can't go with the scooped ones. It doesn't matter that it's a better listening experience overall in those things all the time. I'm not looking for something that makes everything I do sound great. I'm looking for something that makes everything I do sound true. Whatever the true translation is, the truest world translation. That's what I'm going for. And I think that's what anybody should be going for when they're buying headphones. Now, let me just say this also. I'm not somebody who likes the room modeling stuff. People mention the VSX all the time. I haven't tried it, but I've tried other room modeling software, and I didn't like it. You know, I could tell there's like an EQ happening. It sounded very like artificially EQ'd to me, and I didn't like it. So because of that, I don't usually reach for plugins and things that give me room models in headphones. I Something about the naturalness of the driver without a drastic additional EQ curve doing anything that I really like, because every set of headphones has its own curve, so to speak, just like speakers do. You know, these are speakers too. It's just I don't like that additional thing. I want it to be as good and a clear of a flat representation like I have with my NS10s. I want that in my headphones. That's the way I think it will work best for me, because like I explained, I'm learning to mix in headphones because I think it would free me up to be able to mix in more places, and I'm just sort of planning for that. So my goal is to not be locked into this room with these speakers in this position and this, you know, I'm just looking for a little more than that, right? So my goal is to find the thing that speaks the language that these speak. You may have a different goal. In other words, if you're not familiar or don't like NS10s when you're mixing, then maybe you wouldn't want the Manny Marroquins. It's very personal taste. If that's you, you may prefer the LCDXs because to you, that makes sense. That translates the way you're used to hearing, possibly. Everybody's going to be different on this. You know, it's up to you to really figure out what you like. That's the beautiful thing about return policies on most great, you know, stores that are the distributors for this stuff these days. Because if I didn't have enough songs to mix to really get a sense of both of these and what was giving me the same picture as the NS10s, you know, I would have got the wrong ones. So I'm very happy that happened, because, and the comments that you guys dropped, that sort of led me down this path of, I knew I had to test it somehow, but it just, as soon as I heard that, I was like, man, I couldn't help but remember that comment that Django made. I was like, yeah, that's absolutely right. He's absolutely right. Like, it's just, that's what's really happening, because the NS10s tell me what's really happening. I'm used to hearing those. So I'm like, this is not what's really happening on the LCDXs. It's just not. So I need it to be what's really happening. And in my opinion, that's how I get it. Another person, you know, Dirkhead, dropped a great comment about use different headphones. This may work for you. I don't know exactly why I'm not such a fan of picking up multiple headphones. I think it's because it's just like I want one pair of headphones that gives me the full range spectrum, where I hear a lot of low end and I hear a lot of mid-range detail. Like, that's what I'm going for, and I feel very confident in that decision with the Manny Marroquins from Audeze, Audi's, whatever. Those headphones, they're fire. They're great. They give me a clear, beautiful picture of the low end, but they also give me a lot of mid-range. It's just not as much low end and not as much scoop as the LCDXs. And I prefer, you know, that pushed mid-range a little, and a little, you know, I prefer it. And the low end is solid. So those give me everything kind of, and that's kind of what I'm looking for, is the headphones I put on for everything, but there may be no way around it. You may have a better shot of switching headphones, just like Dirk had suggested, to prevent, you know, just basically to do the same thing you would do if you're sitting in your room and you got multiple speakers that you're going to flip between. That might make sense. All I know is, for me, when I switch headphones, things sound so different, because the headphones, it's even more drastically different than when you're in your room and you switch speakers. So I don't know if I just have to get used to that or what, but that's probably why I don't love putting on like one pair of headphones, listening, and then mixing and putting on another headphones and like finishing the mix. Like, I would just wind up doing things constantly over and over again, is how I feel. So I'm really looking to get comfortable with one of them and make that work. You know, that's what I'm going for, but we'll see if that's even possible. Anyway, I changed my mind on this, so I had to let you guys know. And I just also have to say, changing your mind is one of the best things you could do when you're presented with information that creates something where you're like, you know what? I was wrong because I was. So I have to let you guys know about it. So anyway, hope you dig it. Throw something in the comments. Evan Jaffe, Custom Cut Studios. Hit the like button if you dug it. Subscribe if you haven't already. You guys got this. Take it easy.